This is our intro to statistics. There is a lot of vocabulary here, but the vocabulary is going to be the main thing that you're working on. So pay close attention, watch it again if you need to. Univariate data. Basically, the major purpose of univariate data is to describe one variable, so one thing that changes. We also have a couple of words that we use a lot: mean, mode, and median. Those are ways to measure central tendency. Variability, ways to measure variability is range, the maximum, the minimum, quartiles, and standard deviation. We'll go over those some more in future lessons. We also have graphs to describe the data. So, for example, a histogram, a box and whisker plot, or normal distribution graph, basically the bill. So to find out what type of data we have, there's a couple of big words that we want to use. Qualitative, think about quality. So this is description. These are things that are not numbers, colors, textures, appearances, that type of thing. Quantitative, this is dealing with numbers. So can we count it? Can we measure it? Length, height, width. The type of thing that you normally think a math teacher is going to ask you about is quantitative. So quantitative is quantities, qualitative is qualities. So answer this for yourself, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. The number of students in a class who turn in a project before it's due. What about the gender of the next baby born at a hospital? Ask yourself, can it be counted as we go through these? The thickness of the gelatin coating on a pill, so the coating on top of a pill. The first one is quantitative. It's something that we can count. The amount of fluid ounces dispersed by a soda machine, can we count this? Does it have numbers? Birth order of students, names of newspapers. So things that are dealing with numbers for the most part are quantitative, and the ones dealing with naming, qualities, those are quantitative. So check your answers. All right, so another example, quantitative versus qualitative, is basically off of that list that we just saw. All right, so right now we're talking about population versus sample. These get mixed up quite a lot. Your population is every single person or every single thing that exists that falls into a certain category. A sample is, I cannot talk to every single American to find out how they feel about this. I'm going to talk to a portion of the Americans. That's a sample. So a population is when information is gathered. It may include data for all the cases to which the result is to be applied. So every single person in the U.S., if we're talking about Americans for the population. Now, moving on to talking about samples. In order for the sample to reflect the properties of the whole group, we have to do a couple of things to make sure our sample is going to give us good results for our statistics. The sample has to be representative of the group being studied. It has to be large enough. It can't be just a couple of people. The selection should be random so that we get random responses back and not just all the people in this group within the population. So to make the sample random, here are a few things that we use or can use. What does it mean if someone calls you biased? It should be biased with an ED on the end, but basically something skewed based off of other beliefs or something that shouldn't change the view. So a bias is to have a position that favors a group or an opinion over the other group or opinion. So this makes our data skewed, and we don't want skewed data. We want data that is true. So unbiased is not having an opinion or to not favor either direction for whatever it is you're studying. All right, so here's some types of bias. We got selection bias. For example, undercoverage. Some peoples are not represented properly. There's not enough people in the sample. We also have response bias. So that's about the way people respond to a survey and who actually responds to the survey. So voluntary response, okay, there's bias now because only specific people who are prone to wanting to complete a survey are represented. There's also such thing as a leading or loaded question, where you ask a question that's designed to get a certain type of answer. So in 1992, a Roper poll conducted for the American Jewish Community of the Holocaust asked, does it seem possible or does it seem impossible to you that the Nazi extermination of the Jews never happened? Is that a biased question? When we say something like with a double negative, it could be confusing. So that means our answers could be coming from confused people, not informed people. So 22% said it was possible the Holocaust did not occur. That's a leading. So if we rephrase the question, they did a new survey and they asked it this way. Does it seem possible to you that the Nazi extermination of the Jews never happened? Or do you feel certain that it happened? So they're not looking for a specific answer here. They're not guiding you towards a specific answer. So the answers of the respondents changed based off of them writing the question a different. Now, social desirability, that's another type of bias. It's basically most of us like to present ourselves in a good light to show our best side. So a lot of times you'll do a survey, people won't admit racist attitudes, illegal activities, something that's unpopular, because they want to seem that they're good people. So let's look at some examples and try to tell what type of bias is shown. So first we have a uniformed policeman. They asked a group of high school students their names and asked if those students had drugs in the last 30 days. Next, we have a study on coronary problems as conducted using Duke University students. And lastly, we have a survey about cafeteria food conducted by leaving forms at the cash register. So the first type of bias, the students don't want to be seen as undesirable or as bad kids. So that's going to be social desirability. The second thing, the study done on Duke University students, that's going to be sample bias because it's only a certain type of person that's included in the study. And then when we conduct a survey by having people decide to choose whether or not they do the survey, that's going to be voluntary response bias.